if witches are to Massachusetts, then vampires are to Rhode Island. However, vampires are just not associated with Rhode Island. All of the New England area had experienced some form of vampire legends. All related to TB, by the way, tuberculosis. We're heading out to Connecticut, which actually has one of the more interesting vampire legends that I've actually heard outside of Rhode Island. We're going to be meeting up with the Ray family, which again had their problems with vampires, like the Browns, the Tillinghast, the Youngs, and stuff. And I just want to add, you know, like Rhode Island has the most incidences and is kind of more associated with vampires, but the first vampire case is actually in Vermont. And we're by a busy bridge where there was actually no cars going by, but they all just seem to know that I'm trying to do this right now. So now we're heading into the great country of Connecticut, because remember, from Rhode Island, no one drives and no one goes anywhere that's more than 5 minutes away. Ladies and gentlemen, I now present you the Jewett City Vampires. That's what some of the people in this area call them. Let me just go close up. Here's Elisha. He died February 1851. Lemuel Ray. He died 1845. Here's the mother, Lucy. She died 1861, I think. And then there's the father here, Henry B. Ray. He died 1849. Now, as you can tell, this family, just like the Browns and the Tillinghasts and the Staples and many other vampire legends, said they were affected by TB. Now, like I mentioned earlier, they lived in Griswold, but they're buried in Jewett City, the Jewett City Cemetery. The first person to die of TB was actually Lemuel, and then it was the father. He went next, and then it was Elijah. Now, and pretty soon all that remained was the mother, Lucy. I mean, she died a little bit later on, and then the other son, Henry N. Ray, but I think he's also called Henry Nelson, or it might be Henry Nelson Ray. He's buried in here somewhere. We haven't quite found him yet because his tombstone is a little bit less noticeable than these people. Okay, Henry was getting ill, the son, Henry Nelson. So, and I guess it was like desperation. And at the time, as people might remember, TB was actually often linked to vampirism because people just simply did not understand what was causing it. They didn't understand that it was actually bacteria at the time. So anyway, out of desperation, and on May 8th, 1854, let me check. Yeah, May 8th, 1854, I got my paper again with all the notes on it. I'm trying to be professional, okay? 1854, him and some understanding friends and family came to the cemetery and dug up the father, Lemuel, and Elijah. And they did something different that they did on like Rhode Island people in Rhode Island. See, if you remember right, in the Rhode Island vampire lores, the people just cut out the heart and burned the heart. However, they burned the bodies. They burned the entire bodies. It's interesting to know that only the brothers, Lemuel and Elijah, their bodies were burned. However, the father was spared. So on that night, the bodies were burned, and the local newspaper here actually reported it. I mean, they were burned on the spot. Not exactly sure where. I'm assuming over here, because it's a bigger spot. I'm not sure if a lot of these tombstones were still here. So that is the story of the Jewett City Vampires, the Ray family. We're gonna look for the brother. Well, here's the brother. He was the one that exhumed the bodies of his siblings and burned them for being vampires. As you can see, 1854. My guess is his thing didn't work. But you know what? At that time, desperation, people do desperate things. People do that now. She also make mention that here's some other people, and most of these people died after the incident with the TV incident. But I want to point out these people: George Ray and Ed Carr. They were both born in the same year, so they might be twins. Might not be, but I'm assuming they're twins. And he was only 1, and he was only 7. So I wonder if they were victims of TB, because there's lots of talk about the males in the Ray family were like dying off like crazy. Though from what I understand, after the burning of the bodies, kind of like the thing with the Mercy Brown and everything, even though the last person sick died, the TB stopped. So, and what's interesting is this is the Ray plot family, more Ray family over there. However, the other ones are like buried way over there. So it's kind of interesting that they're not buried together.
One of the things that we noticed in this particular cemetery, it's the most well-known cemetery that we've seen. Take a look at this. They're preserving this old headstone with this fortress around it so that no rain, wind, and anything gets to it, so that people 100 years from now can enjoy it. Just as well, we see a lot of other headstones that are pasted together, those that fell apart, or the winter made it crack.
Or crackheads knocked it over.
They put them together. They're fixing up walls along the borders of the cemeteries, and frankly, it's nice to see because we've seen so much destruction in other cemeteries.
Yeah, I have to say the only cemetery that we've seen that were kind of well kept was the Mercy Brown one, because the church still uses it. But also Precious Blood Cemetery isn't too bad either. But like the Tillinghast is falling apart, and the Nellie Vaughan one is atrocious. So it's nice. I agree. It's nice to see that they're actually keeping a cemetery together. Thank you, Steve. Nothing known about JB. Only that in the 90s, these two children were playing by like a bank, and actually several skulls started coming out. And they did this digging, and they found this one person in a coffin marked JB. And he was, I guess JB doesn't want us talking about him. But anyway, they noticed something different about him. His chest was cut open. His bones were arranged in like the skull and the crossbones. So then they realized, oh my goodness, I thought he was a vampire too. His body has recently been taken away into like the Connecticut museum, and he's actually been studied. They're trying to figure out, many people have died over the years of tuberculosis. I mean, it goes back to ancient Egypt. Why is only some people considered vampires while others were not? I mean, whole families were devastated by TB back then. But why was JB considered a vampire? Why was Elisha and Lemuel and Mercy Brown and Sarah Tillinghast, why were they considered vampires while everybody else was not? So they're hoping to find out more answers from examining JB. But like I said, he's not here. But it did happen in Griswold, Connecticut on the Watson farm. So Griswold is kind of like Exeter. Exeter had 3, they had 2. So that's it now for the Vampires of Connecticut. Sorry it wasn't a little bit quieter, but come out here sometime.